My sister has had some dealings with mental health in the past, and she's never gone missing.
That was concerned brother Christopher Breck talking about his sister, missing person Elizabeth Breck. There's been some media on this case, but there's not a whole lot of details. It's been going on for a few weeks now. I want to help raise exposure, and I want to ask you to do that with me. Let's do it together. It's time for us to turn on the searchlight. Hey everyone, John Lorden here. Thank you so much for joining me on another episode of Brainscratch Searchlight. I want to let all of you know that I also have a few updates in particular about the Danniella Vian case, and I've got some big updates in terms of the missing person Andrew Kinsman that turned into the terror that is the Bruce McArthur case, coming up after we talk about Elizabeth Breck. And here we have a photo of missing person Elizabeth Breck. I was very moved to cover this case when I took a look at it. Of course, one of the big conditions of this case is we're talking about someone that struggled with mental health issues. You're going to see as we go through the information that seems to play a significant factor in her disappearance. But on top of that, we've got a teacher. We've got someone that is loved by her family. She's been missing for a few weeks at this point. So I'm hopeful that getting this information out and raising exposure to this case can only help. Her family's been working very hard to raise exposure to this case, really her brother in particular. And I really admire that he's been kind of continually opening up about the details of this case. And in an interesting way, it's kind of grabbing the media's attention and making this more than just one story that comes out based on a missing poster. He's really been kind of feeding new details to the media in a way where it's bringing exposure back to this case time and time again, at least with the local media. On a national level, I'm really not seeing too much information on this case yet, but that's why I wanted to cover it here on YouTube where everyone can get to it. So we could see here a picture of Elizabeth Breck. She is missing from an area called Pinal County, and that is in Arizona. Let's go ahead and learn just a little bit more about that from visittucson.org. And here we see a very interesting picture of Pinal County. Located in the central part of Arizona, 70 miles northwest of Tucson, Pinal County is the third largest county in Arizona and one of the fastest growing in the United States. As of 2010, its population was 375,770 people. Pinal County's landscape is divided by soaring mountains that include mining communities on its eastern side and low deserts with settlements based on agriculture on its western side. So just wanted to give you guys a little bit of backstory in terms of where this is taking place, and understanding the landscape a little bit I think is important for this case as well. Let's move to kgun9.com with one of the earlier updates on this case. This is from January 15th, 2019. Pinal County Sheriff's deputies are looking for a missing 46-year-old woman who teaches at Tucson High. Elizabeth Breck was last seen at 3 p.m. January 13th near Edwin and North Lago del Oro Parkway, wearing a gray skirt and gray top. She is 5'4", 123 pounds, and has blonde hair and green eyes. And of course, with a case this recent, there is no NamUs profile set up on it yet, so we're going to have to kind of get the basics of the information through the articles. I can see just from this photo pretty clear that her ears are pierced. But outside of that, I don't have any information about identifying marks, tattoos, scars, moles, anything of that nature. So unfortunately, the NamUs profile just doesn't seem to be quite ready yet. Hopefully it's in the works. I'm not even positive that it's being developed, but I'd like to hope that law enforcement is helping the family with that. If you are one of the family members and you're not sure about that, I can help you guys with that too. I just need some more kind of personal information about Elizabeth to get it entered. So please feel free to contact me at john@lordenarts.com if I can help you with that. Moving on to Tucson.com. A Tucson High magnet school teacher has been missing since Sunday, officials say. Breck teaches culturally relevant classes at the high school. Another thing about this case is there's not a ton of personal detail about Elizabeth out there, but from what I can see, she is also into dancing. I'm seeing several notes about spirituality, that is very important to her. But outside of that, I just don't have a whole lot of information. I don't know if she's married. I don't know if there are children involved. It seems like the family is being very personal and private with some of the details. It can help if some of those details might tie into the reasons for her disappearance, but we just don't have those details at this point. Although Breck lives in Tucson, the Pinal County Sheriff's Office is investigating her disappearance because of where she was last seen. The Sheriff's Office doesn't currently suspect foul play. Now, I've mentioned to you the cross streets, and they're saying that it's Edwin Road and Lago del Oro Parkway, which we can see a map of here. But let's go ahead and kick on the satellite view. And I don't know, just personally, guys, I get a bit concerned when I see terrain of this nature. It looks very, very dry out here. But thankfully, it's not a lot of open terrain. Basically, if she goes walking in any direction from this intersection, within a mile or so, she's going to bump into either homes, neighborhoods. It looks like there's some kind of facility that is up here. Plenty of neighborhoods out here. So I'm worried when I look at a case like this about the potential that someone like literally chose to walk off into the desert, and we have covered cases like that before here on the channel. What I'm seeing here doesn't really allow for that a whole lot. I guess if she went kind of north and then east and went directly for what looks like mountains over here, that would be really the only opportunity. Everything else, she's basically going to hit some type of civilization. So the chance that she's lost out there, I think once you get through the details with me, probably not a very high chance that that's what's going on. Could she have potentially walked off on her own? We did mention that she's kind of spiritual. Maybe she wanted to go be alone for some reason. Pretty thin chance, but possible around here. And keep in mind that local media has been reporting this. I am seeing that there's been a few different missing persons posters that have been made. I'd like to think that family and friends are kind of blanketing this area with that information. So her getting around this neighborhood without being recognized or being spotted, yeah, there's a chance of it. I wouldn't put it extremely high because I am seeing quite a bit of local coverage on this. Once again, thanks primarily to her brother. Moving over to another article at Tucson News Now. I literally have one sentence in this article highlighted, but I think it's very important. Authorities said they are worried about Breck's well-being. So let's learn a little bit more about why they might be concerned. Over at KVOA.com, the brother of a missing Tucson high school teacher opened up about his sister's disappearance. Family members said Elizabeth Breck was last seen at a treatment facility on January 13th. They said she was taking part in a 30-day trauma program. Now, I have seen some comment threads where people are talking about this case. A lot of people are wondering, what is this program? What is that for? Would this mean that she went through something recently? Not necessarily. This is really a program. It seems like it's designed to treat almost like PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder symptoms. And that can be from an event that, yeah, it could be recent, could be really, really old. So once again, family is being very tight-lipped. We have no information about what was going on in Elizabeth's personal life that could have given her that type of trouble, or why at this time in particular she would be seeking help for it if it actually is from an issue that is from long before. But this is another reason why I felt like it was important to cover this case. I know, thanks to how honest you brain scratchers are with me, several of us have dealt with some sort of mental health related issue in the past. And it can really change your perspective on the world, on your own life in very drastic and, quite frankly, scary ways. So we don't want to run away from stories like this. We don't want to say we can't help in stories like this. This is really the time that as a community we need to rally around these families and try to find the missing person, try to bring them home, try to get them back into those services that could potentially help them. Now, I do think I know where she was, but the family is specifically asking that that information not be released. So I'm not going to release it. But there is a question that I do think we have to address, and that is, was she last seen specifically at that intersection? I don't believe so. I believe that that intersection is close to the facility where she was. So I don't think we actually have a sighting of her in particular at that intersection, which if you look at the map of the intersection, let me just go ahead and take you back to a street level view on it so you can see what I'm talking about. Not exactly the type of place where someone would just want to be kind of generally hanging out. Just pretty much open terrain and, 4 roads crossing, and that's about it. It looks like there's a bunch of mailboxes back here as well. Not a whole lot going on in this area. So that is as much as I think I can tell you, while respecting the family's wishes of trying to keep that information private as well. But I did want to let you know that that type of treatment program in particular could be for recent trauma, could be for older trauma. But for some reason, Elizabeth was seeking that help and tried to get it for herself. It seems like she then left. And that is one of the big questions. Why would she have left? But let's continue here. Christopher Breck said his sister receives treatment for mental health issues and has never done anything like this before. For her to not have any contact with anybody is just highly unusual and unlike any behavior we've seen from her in the past, said Christopher Breck. Moving on to another article at kgun9.com, this one from January 21st, 2019. The Sheriff's Department currently has no leads. Elizabeth checked herself into a treatment facility in Pinal County earlier this month for a 30-day trauma program, according to her brother. Quote, everything seemed fine, that it was something that was going to be very beneficial for her, just to get her back in the right frame of mind and continue on with her life, Christopher said. And then she disappeared. Elizabeth left the facility on foot, her brother says, leaving her car, cell phone, and other belongings at the facility. The Breck family does not want to reveal the name of the facility as the investigation is ongoing. Christopher believes Elizabeth left with only her ID card and some cash on her. I did bump into information at another article that said she might also have a change of clothes with her. So the gray top and gray skirt could potentially have been changed very soon after she left the facility. In the past, Christopher says his sister would reach out to family, friends, and professionals for help. Before she checked into the facility, he says Elizabeth wasn't feeling like herself. Initially, Christopher says the family thought Elizabeth went to see one of her daughters who lives in other states. So at least there we do have an answer. She does have children. Or a monastery in New York she visits yearly. But they say these scenarios are unlikely because they have not heard from her. Elizabeth is described as spiritual, outgoing, and very involved in the Buddhist community. And now we see a little of what I'm talking about with how the family is just releasing a little more information and a little more information, and it seems to be working well because we're getting kind of regular updates that are happening in the local media on this. Another article from Tucson.com, this one from January 23rd, 2019, also says family shares more. A psychiatrist advised Breck to check into the facility, the brother said. After being evaluated, Breck was deemed not a threat to herself or others and was admitted to an area of the facility that's not locked down. Following her disappearance, officials searched the 160-acre grounds but found no leads. He says that officials talked to employees and visitors and checked Elizabeth Breck's house several times, but have found no clues to her disappearance. And I'm not sure that she would have been easily able to get home. From what I see, I believe that she lived over 20 miles away from where she was at this facility, and her car is left at the facility. So, could she have hitched a ride or found some type of public transport or something like that to get her back to her house? Potentially, but obviously they're saying they've checked her house and there are no clues to her disappearance. And I'm sure that also means there's no signs that she has showed up back there. Officials searched the area Breck was last seen with dogs, drones, infrared imaging, helicopters, and on foot. Once again, no foul play is suspected. Christopher Breck said his sister is a very outgoing, peaceful person, beloved throughout the Tucson community. She's also a dancer and involved in a number of dance groups. She's a certified teacher who's very well liked by students, parents, and colleagues. She's also very involved in support groups for people recovering from trauma and women's empowerment groups. Her family has set up a GoFundMe to hire a private investigator. And if there is a bright spot in this story, it is this GoFundMe. It's not very often that I come to a GoFundMe and I see that they've actually reached their goal in these missing persons cases. This is a pretty rare occasion here. But we can see they do have a GoFundMe set up. They're very open that this is for not only a private investigator, but other financial obligations of Elizabeth. And that's something that isn't always considered when we're kind of reviewing these stories. But keep in mind, the elements of a person's life keep going on while that person is missing. So if she was renting, that rent is still due. Utility bills still due, all kinds of other payments. So the finances don't just stop because someone goes missing. And of course, it's up to the family to try to deal with that while they're searching for their loved one. So despite the fact that they have hit their goal, once again, on behalf of myself and my amazing supporters through PayPal and Patreon, which you can do at lordandarts.com if you're interested in being part of this team, we're going to make a donation to this GoFundMe just as soon as I'm done filming today's episode. Now, on top of that, a couple of interesting comments that happen in Facebook. A few people that saying that they've seen her. Some people that have reached out to the police, and the police are saying, well, this isn't really a missing persons case. This is just more like we want to do a welfare check, and then that kind of being retracted. So let's be clear here. This is a post that happened just a week ago from Chris Breck. I'm Elizabeth Breck's brother, and I want to dispel some information. First, Elizabeth has not been seen and is still missing. Second, this has been released to the public as our family wishes. And I do get that feeling. I get the feeling that the family is being a bit controlled with the information as it comes out. And I'm thankful that in large, the media is respecting their boundaries with that. I did find some conversation threads. I'm not even going to put them in the details down below for you guys because people have kind of gone against the family's wishes there and started divulging information that I thought was kind of a bit too personal. So I don't think it really ties to the missing persons case directly, so I'm not going to cover that information here. But back to Chris's comment. Finally, the authorities have been phenomenal in their response, and if further release of information or actions are needed, our family will release that and request help. At this time, please continue sending your thoughts and prayers. Thank you. He also made another post. This is in a different thread. I want to thank the Pinal County Sheriff's Office and the surrounding areas, TPD and PIMA CSO, or it could be PIMA, for their efforts to date in trying to locate my sister. We have not had any contact or verified leads. She has not been seen to date. Please be respectful of the family in posting only positive suggestions and recommendations. Also, information has been released to ensure the integrity of the investigation. We will continue to update as is warranted. Thank you again for your support, thoughts, and prayers. And I just want to bring up this missing poster because I'm sure you've noticed in the media coverage, we're basically seeing the picture on the left time and time again. Not a whole lot of other pictures of what she looks like. But thankfully, this poster has a few other ones. And I'd like to zoom in on it. There we go. Let me make it a little bit bigger for you guys so you can see that photo there. So where is Elizabeth Breck? This seems like a bit of a cut and dry instance. It seems like she got to this treatment facility, something changed for her. And keep in mind, she wasn't taken to this facility. Yes, she did have someone that suggested that she checks herself in, but she literally drove herself there. I'm sure she made the arrangements for this 30-day window that she was planning to be there. She got evaluated on her way in. So it really seems like she was a willing participant and part of this process. because we're talking about mental health issues here and we don't really know of what kind or what severity, it's really hard for us to understand the intent or the motivation for her leaving the facility. But what is clear is she did, because we know that the sheriffs and police have coordinated and they've searched the facility, they've searched around it, they've used pretty much every technique that we hear about in these missing persons cases, and they have not found her. For some reason, she left the facility. Now, where it gets concerning is if something could have happened to her after that. Who knows what type of state she's in? She probably wasn't feeling very well. We do have some elements to worry about out there, just in terms of weather condition and the type of environment and all that kind of stuff. I'm sure dehydration could be a potential issue. And then, of course, there's the other aspect where there might have been something that happened to her after the fact. And that could branch off into all kinds of different directions. What I would like to hope is that she had something specific that she wanted to do, or a specific place she wanted to get to, and that she is working towards that or is able to do that in some way, get whatever she needs from that experience, and then come back to the life that she's put together for herself. This is a woman that has been teaching for years. This is a woman that does some interesting things in terms of integrating dance with her spirituality, and there's classes that she's led on that. It just seems that she has so much to offer, and it's really sad to think that this is someone that was seeking help, that took themselves to a facility, and then something just went wrong there, and we don't really have a clear understanding of what it is. And I'm really, really hopeful that she can be brought back to people that want to help her and care about her and help her move through whatever she's facing, which is who knows? It's from the perspective of someone going through something like that, it could literally be the worst thing in the world that she's facing right now. And it seems like she is doing it alone, and that can't be good. Of course, my heart also really goes out to the family. And Christopher, I think you're doing an amazing job in terms of releasing information that is helpful in terms of media. And I think I understand why you're controlling some of the information here. I think that I have a whole bunch of tips that I've put together. So if Christopher or some other family member happens to see this, look in the description box below and look for my link at brainscratchers.com about missing persons tips. There might be some things there that can help you guys in terms of this search, in terms of next steps. If you're planning on putting any vigils together, I've got a whole video on that, the Facebook page, all that kind of stuff. All in that link. So you might want to check that out. And the only thing I might suggest is some more of the personal details might actually help, because people associate with those personal details, and all of a sudden that makes this image resonate for that person a little stronger. And if that person happens to see Elizabeth somewhere out in the real world, there's a likelihood of her remembering, of the person remembering that that's her, based on having some connectivity with her. So I've tried to include as much as I could about the information I found about what type of person she is. But I would think that more information like that can only help in terms of getting this story out there and really making it connect to people, which is a very important component of these missing persons cases as well. All right, so I told you guys I got a couple of updates. First of all, a big thank you to Shauna, who we talked about on last week's episode, the interview for the Danniella Vian case, where we spoke to Julie Thomas. And as you know, Shauna is one of her helpers. Shauna got back in contact with me. I included some photos of hats that I thought could be like the hat that Danniella was wearing, a pink hat with a what's described as like a Simpsons type donut on it. Shauna actually has a picture of Danniella wearing the hat. So here it is so you guys can check it out. It is believed that she could be wearing this hat. One of the people that was there that night says that she was wearing this hat. So I wanted to be sure to get that image out to you. Shauna also told me that Danniella actually had several more tattoos than we've heard about from the NamUs profile and the missing posters. So of course we did mention the mandala flower that was on her left shoulder, the two tombstones that are close to the flower. We also talked about the elephant that was on her wrist. But on top of that, she has a bumblebee on her neck. She's got Buddha on her right leg. She's got a flag with a unicorn also on her right leg. And she's got Forever Young written on her left leg. On top of that, there is also a heart on her right leg. So many more tattoos than we got from the original description. And once again, thank you to Shauna for sharing that information with us. And finally, this is news that's literally just happening on the day I'm recording this video. We can see here at cbc.ca, Bruce McArthur pleads guilty to 8 counts of first-degree murder. And several of you brain scratchers might remember that I was originally made aware of this case when I started a Searchlight episode for Andrew Kinsman. And then pretty soon after that episode aired, we started getting a couple of updates, and this character, Bruce McArthur, came about. Several other people that had disappeared in the area, and all of a sudden the connections started happening there. I want to also give a big thank you to Lizzie Violet, who has been talking to me throughout all of this and keeping me updated with news articles and all kinds of information kind of at the street level of what's going on in Cabbagetown, Ontario. But let's get back to the update here. Bruce McArthur pleaded guilty to 8 counts of first-degree murder when the 67-year-old landscaper appeared in a downtown Toronto courtroom today and admitted to killing 8 men between 2010 and 2017. The self-employed landscaper was arrested in January of 2018. And Lizzie also sent me a very touching article in terms of compiling information about the victims and who these men were. And this article is also, it's got this very tasteful art style. They have an image for each of the victims here as well. So I wanted to share this with you guys. I'll have a link to it down below. And I'm thankful, and Lizzie and I kind of spoke about this. I'm thankful that the families of all of these men don't have to go through some long, drawn-out court processes and who knows how many days of showing up to trial and hearing all of these gruesome details and horrible testimony that a case like this could bring up. Thankfully, Bruce has pled guilty, and now we can just get to sentencing and call it from there. As a matter of fact, Lizzie did send me some more updates. Sentencing, I think, has already come down. If I heard correctly, Bruce was given a life sentence, will be eligible for parole after 25 years, but that would put him at the age of 91 before he's eligible for parole. So sounds practically like a life sentence with no parole, but we'll see about that. So that's it, everyone. Sorry, I'm just, despite the fact that a good thing happened in this case, there was something about this case that always really bothered me. You know, I guess it happens with any serial killer case, but when you look into the details, I mean, several of these men were involved with Bruce in some way, some as potential lovers at some point, some as employees. It's a terrible thing that someone that we would trust let into our lives that closely could turn out to be this sort of villain. But unfortunately, that's exactly what we had happen in this case. Before I let you guys go, I want to let you know about one more thing that I've been working on pretty hard over, for a long time, but over the past week, it kind of really came to a head when the mother of Colin Madsen, Dana Madsen Calcutt, reached out to me and said, John, I need to do a video. I don't know how to do it. I don't even know how to record. How can I get this done? And I worked with Dana to put a video together for a GoFundMe campaign for Colin. There has been a significant turn in that the case has been reopened in Russia thanks to the work of her attorneys. There is another significant turn in that Dana and her family, their savings are pretty much wiped out at this point, and they need to keep those attorneys funded to keep pressing on with this case. So that's why we've worked together to make this GoFundMe. I hope you'll please click that link down below, check out the GoFundMe, watch the video, and if you're so motivated to, please donate to that cause. Please become part of the team to help find justice for Colin and hopefully peace for Dana and her family. This has been a terrible thing to go through. If you guys saw the brain scratches on this, you know that we're talking a gap, this international gap when it comes to trying to run these processes to find justice. And you've got one side of the world saying, well, no, there's nothing we can do. We think this was just kind of an accidental death thing. We've got the American side saying, look, we have no processes. We have no jurisdiction in Russia. There's no way for us to do anything about this. But we have a family that's trying to fight through all that. And if you want to be part of the team that helps them with that fight, join me. Come check out this GoFundMe and please make a donation, or at a minimum, please share it with others and help us spread the word about this. Thank you so much for joining me on today's episode of Searchlight. I really appreciate each and every one of you out there that watches and shares these videos. Take care, and I'll see you back here on Friday with a new episode of Brainscratch.